Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about the travel palette and we're going to swatch out the colours and do a painting for you with those colours. So I'm using the Escoda Reserva number 6 brush, and you can get those on Jackson's Art. And then I'm just going to swatch them on this Canson watercolour paper from Walmart. So that's pretty much my go-to brush, and then I'd like this watercolour paper just for to use it for swatches. So here you can see kind of a swatch book, and I have a video about how I put this together, but I just really like to use this paper for swatching and for trying out, colours and things like that. And so I did the kind of first part of this video a while ago, and I haven't had a chance to sort of get back to it. And so I talked a little bit about, in this palette I could fit 23 colours or 32, and so there was kind of I tried to sort of condense it to 23 colours, but then I really wanted, those extra sort of colours in the palette. So I ended up with this one that you can kind of see on the page there, and I'm pretty happy with that. And in the other video I kind of show you how I cut up those little swatches and sort of organize those in the palette. And here I'm just kind of showing you a couple of different tries, where I tried to condense the paints down, the choices right down, so I could sort of do full pans, but I just prefer kind of to have more colors at my disposal. So here I started to swatch them out, and for some reason the video wasn't playing, but what we have there from the left is Daniel Smith Van Dyke Brown roasted, Daniel Smith roasted French ochre, Daniel Smith Sedona, Daniel Smith French ochre, and then Daniel Smith Mayan Red and Daniel Smith Rhodonite. And this palette really condensed is my favourite colours. So for a few years I've been kind of buying different colours. So this is Daniel Smith Opera Rose, or yeah, I think Daniel Smith Opera Rose. And a lot of brands have an Opera Rose, but I have been trying to kind of find this palette for a few years, and these are the colours that I would really recommend. I love all of these colours. So that was Holbein. These two are Holbein, so Brilliant Pink and Shell Pink. And I really enjoy having those two in my palette. And then here we have Vermilion, and I think that in this palette I am using Holbein Vermilion and then a Holbein Orange. But my first preference would be Daniel Smith Organic Vermilion and Daniel Smith Pyrrole Orange, but I didn't have any more of those to put in this palette. And then I'm using their Holbein Jaune Brilliant number 2 because again I didn't have the Schminker Naples Red Yellow, which I would usually have in that spot. And then next we're going with the Daniel Smith Nicolazo and then the Schminker Lemon Yellow. So I like that one. It's a little bit cooler. And then for the greens, the darkest green that I have in the palette is the Daniel Smith Terra Vert, which I really like. It's kind of got sort of the grey undertones. And then Permanent Green. And then this one here is Fuchsia, which is one of my all-time favourite colours. I really, really love this one. And I think I've probably told you or showed you before, but it's got a beautiful sparkle in it. It's actually made from the real rock, like the sort of semi-precious rock. And then the next one is one that I kind of snuck in there as well, because I didn't have enough of the green gold. So I put a little bit of the Holbein Composed Green in there, which is also a pretty kind of mint colour. And then the next is Daniel Smith Green Gold, and then Indigo. So this one is Daniel Smith Indigo. I really love this as well. And this would, you can mix this with any of the other colours to deepen it up a little bit. Okay, and then I couldn't see under the recording thing. So next is Kyanite, Daniel Smith, and it is also a sparkle like a gemstone. And then we have Cobalt Blue, Daniel Smith, and then Schminker Cobalt Turquoise. And then next to that is Holbein Leaf Green. So in that kind of one full pan, I added the green gold, the leaf green, and the composed green because I didn't have enough of the green gold. But I really didn't mind, you know, I've put kind of colours which I don't mind the mixing together in that full pan, if that makes sense. And then the next line, so then we have Shadow Violet and Moonglow from Daniel Smith, and Sugalite, which is one of my favourites, and I love to use that also to deepen colours up and for shadows. And then we have Daniel Smith Ultramarine Violet, and then Winsor & Newton Cobalt Violet, which I really love both of those as well. And then I actually added Daniel Smith German Green Raw Umber, and then Daniel Smith Moonstone. And so what I'm just showing you here is when I was kind of picking it, I went through my swatches, and I think I have a video on how to make these, but I went through my swatches and kind of tried to figure out what I wanted, like if some hues were kind of similar. Was one more staining? Was one more granulating? Did it have a better light fastness rating? And then you know, it went back to kind of what I enjoy using and what I can mix with and things like that. So I really enjoy having the range that I kind of have in this palette. And I did kind of pick a deeper range of the purples, but I really just like all of those colours, and I use them sort of slightly differently. And then here you can see, like, instead of 3 of those colours that were quite similar, I just went with the Cobalt Turquoise with Schminker and the Cobalt Blue, because you can kind of mix the manganese colour from those two, so I'll show you that a bit later on. But that's kind of what I did. I just went through and looked at them, and can I mix something similar, like for example the Schminker Brilliant Purple was there before, and I didn't pick that one because I feel like I can mix that a little bit. And some of these greens, like I love all the 3 of those greens, but I just put the fuchsia in there because I use that so much. And I wasn't sure whether to go with Indian Yellow or Nickel Azo Yellow, but I thought because the contrast was a little bit greater between the Nickel Azo and the Lemon Yellow, that's the one that I went with. And Opera Rose is a fugitive colour, which means it's not light fast, so if it was put up on the wall in the sun, you know, it might fade or something like that, but I'm not too worried, like that's not the way that I'm kind of using them, so I just really enjoy using that. And then you can see here these 4 browns are so similar, but I really love the Daniel Smith ones that I picked for their granulating qualities and just the really nice sort of slight different tone that they have. And they are, I'm pretty sure they are from the earth as well. So, and then here I'm just kind of showing you, I also looked through my sketchbooks to see kind of how I had used them, if I liked the way that they kind of came across, or if I could quickly mix up different colours and things like that. So here was like the moon. What I'm looking at here is the Moon Glow and the Shadow Violet, and should I just put one of those in, or, you know, do I need both of them? And I've used both of them in these, you know, few sort of sketches that you're seeing here, so I was happy to kind of in the end include both of them. And I think this is also with Amethyst, so I want to include Amethyst, but I don't have any more to put in at the minute, so that's why that kind of that half pan there is empty, because I want to wait and sort of add some amethyst in there as well. I feel like I'm struggling to keep up here, but this is so just you can see the differences in these colors there, and I ended up putting the Sleeping Beauty turquoise and the Cobalt turquoise in to the palette as well. So I'm not sure, I might not have swatched the Sleeping Beauty turquoise, but what I do have is a full, so on my blog, this is herbillowingheart.blogspot.com, I have a picture that kind of shows the finished palette, and it names all of them as well, so you can kind of have a look on there if you wanted to refer back, and I'll try and link everything down below, but I've been having problems with my internet. But what I was saying before is I keep feeling like I am struggling to keep up with what I'm showing you with the voiceover, so I apologize for that. This is kind of why I like doing the voice in real time, so that I can kind of, stop and say whatever I need to say before I kind of move on visually. But anyway, I'll do my best to keep up. But here I have just swatched out Winsor & Newton Cobalt Violet, which is a colour that I really like. I don't have any left at the minute, so I've got to sort of repurchase that. But what I'm showing you here is that at the minute I can pretty much make a pretty similar colour with ultramarine violet and opera rose. So I'm not sure how it compares with, light fastness and things like that, because opera rose is fugitive. But I'm just showing you that I can get the hue there pretty similar. So I'm quite happy with that. Until I can sort of get some more of that. But also, like, I have a video where I show my 12 sort of favourite Daniel Smith watercolours to create a palette. And the reason that I like those ones is because you can mix a lot of those. So you don't have to start with 32 colours. You can start with 12. I mean, you can start with, one. Like, I think that Pearl White was the first thing that I purchased, and then I think I purchased 3 more after that, Fuchsite, Sugarlight, and a brown, I think. So, you don't have to start with getting all the colours in the palette, but I did want to put this together and recommend it because it's taken me a long time to figure out these colours, to figure out, that I could use these colours to mix some other colours, and that I can these are really nice versions of that colour. Like, I've tried the colours in a few different iterations from different brands. And here I'm just kind of showing you as well the manganese colour and the cobalt teal, how I can, so I mixed, so this is kind of the manganese from the cobalt blue and the cobalt turquoise in the palette, and then the other one was mixing the cobalt teal from, I think, Fuchsite and the cobalt turquoise, and I really love that mixture as well. I love the those two together. So I'm pretty happy with the way that they will all mix. And then here I'm just kind of showing you, this is a grey mix that I do with the cobalt blue and the Sedona, which I quite like it, or it might be roasted French ochre, but it's just one of the grey mixes that I like to create. It's a pretty simple one, and I've been kind of working on trying, my favourite grey mix, but I think that it kind of depends on the painting that you're doing, depending on how do you want a lighter version of a grey mix or a darker version? For example, Fuchsite and Shell Pink look completely different as a grey mix compared to this one, and so you can use that in like a different painting. So there's a few different, this palette is really versatile in giving you a lot of options for that. And what I've kind of done is put the warm colours on the right side and the cool colours on the left, so you can see there that's another, a deeper grey mix. And I think that was from like a darker, like maybe indigo, and I wasn't watching, sorry, but like it would have been a darker brown and a darker blue. And so that's one of my favourite things about this palette. I've tried to choose kind of clear colours. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but like they're not too warm and they're not too... So there's 3 different types of greys that you can mix, and obviously the greys would be endless depending on which colours that you kind of mix there. And I can do a whole video on like more how to mix colours and things like that from this palette, but I kind of tried to pick a few different things to show you. And then here I'm just showing you as well that when you have the pearl white, all of the colours there can become, pearlescent colours, which I really, really love about that. So here I'm just using the ultramarine violet and the pearl white and just creating a really nice shimmer out of that. And then I'm using a pink, it's probably shell pink, and then creating some different, you know, pearl colours, which I really love to use these in my paintings as well. Sorry, and I feel like because the recording, the voiceover sort of box comes over part of the screen, so I can't exactly see what I'm doing all the time there, but I think you can see the shimmer colours there, and I'm just showing you on the plate here. I really love how, you know, palettes end up. So I'm just using a ceramic Royal Doulton palette, and it's actually like a sandwich tray. I got it like off Amazon for like $25, so just really enjoy using that as a palette. It's just nice to mix on. And then here I think I'm showing you, I'm not really sure, but I'm not sure if I was trying to make like a skin tone there, but I think here I am showing you some of my favorite. So when you mix a little bit of pink and a little bit of brown, I really enjoy that kind of color mixture. And then here I'm also showing you that with the French ochre, I can put a little bit of hematite in that. So that was another one in my palette, and I think I forgot to swatch it at the beginning. But I really enjoy this one for making like the browns look like old stonework in old buildings and things like that. So I like to have this one in my palette. If I was going to take it out and sketch, you know, I have that there, and I can really create those kind of stonework, you know, of the old architecture and the buildings. The you know, the beautiful old facades, the stone, yeah. But anyway, so here I am just showing you some of, like I said, some of my favorite browns and pinks, and some of these are really good in florals as well. So instead of just sticking with the bright pinks or things like that, you can have a slight variation on the color, and that will create some of the depth and some of the you know, shadows and things like that that you're looking for in the florals. And then here I think I'm using some of the blue ochre and the Mayan red possibly, or an orange there, just to create some skin tones as well. So I have, you know, there's a lot of versatility in the palette, and here that was where I kind of ended it, and then I thought I wanted to actually add this part. So I'm going to now paint, and then you can kind of paint this as well. It's a really nice little scene, and I had painted this actually in a Winsor & Newton sketchbook, actually like in the middle of a tornado warning when we lost power one night. But here it's a really nice little scene, and it was fairly easy to paint, so I thought that it would be really nice to show you, and you know, if you want to paint it along with it or watch it and then kind of replay it and have a go of it. It's pretty simple, and so the first thing that we're going to do now is to tape up the page. So I've actually never done this before. This is the first time I have taped up sort of where I'm going to paint, and I really generally don't do it because I'm worried that I will make it crooked even though it's taped. But here I'm just showing you we're painting pretty simple shapes here. So you've got these sticks that come out of the water with a little ball on the top, and then you've got some points of the boats and some curves. So it's a pretty simple kind of idea. And what I am going to do now is first of all kind of pencil off the horizon. So you can see there I'm using my favorite Faber-Castell graphite. It's just a watercolor lead pencil. So so now we're kind of starting the first boat, and you can see it's a pretty simple point, and then it comes down, and then there's another kind of point, like a 3 basically on the you know, up, sort of upside down, turn to the side 3, and then just the stick with sort of 2 parallel lines, and then the little ball at the top. So it's pretty simple, and what I like to do with those wooden sort of poles that come out is that they're all a little bit off center, so they don't all come to the same place in the you'll kind of see once we finish, but they don't sort of come to the same place on the horizon. And so as well, if you are looking for any of my favorite supplies, I do have a blog post on my blog. It's thisisherbillowingheart.blogspot.com, and then on the right you'll see it says my favorite supplies or something like that, and I have a link to kind of the things that I use most often, and I mean, I will post them as soon as I can underneath this video. I just don't know how long that will take me because of the problems I'm having with the internet. So, but here we're just kind of keep going, and we're doing these kind of half moon shape. They're kind of a moon shape that's got a flat part, you know, or something like that with these boats. And so we're nearly finished the sketch here, and then we can get into the watercolor portion. And so you can see that they're kind of, the boats actually are pretty evenly lined up along the page there, and the masts are all a little bit off center there. So, but each boat has kind of one in front of it and one behind it. And now we're going to just start putting color straight onto the page. So I think I started the other one like this as well. So I just start with the indigo on the boats, and I'm actually using this brush, but I think that when I did the other one I used a number 2 at Skoda Reserva, so it was a bit of a smaller brush, and it's a little bit easier to navigate around in these little sort of areas. So I would probably recommend a smaller brush for this painting, unless you have a brush that's got like a really nice fine point on it, which this one kind of doesn't quite have. So, and then what we're doing now is I'm just dropping in a little bit more color, and then I'm going to pull out the bottom of the boat with water so that the hang on. Okay, so I've already done that, so I couldn't see, but yeah, you pull the, just with some water, you just kind of wetting the bottom of that and letting the color melt into the water a little bit. And then here we're starting the next boat, and so we just go along and do this same thing for all of the boats. And I'm no expert really at painting or at you know, painting water. I am kind of learning all this as I go, and then I'm kind of sharing it as, you know, as I can. But there are some really amazing artists, like I'll see if I can find their names, Julia, but I can't remember her last name, but they do really amazing things with painting water and painting boats and painting harbours. But it's really a nice kind of thing to paint, because you can play with the water and letting the colour kind of melt into each other and things like that. So it's just it's quite nice. So you can see here I'm putting some water down first before I add the colour, and just kind of, you know, see if that makes a difference there. And then I'm always sort of going back before the colour is completely dry, just to add more colour if I want to. So instead of, I mean, you can wait till it's dry and then glaze it on top, but I've just been kind of doing that lately, like just adding more colour until, you know, as I want to, until that's dry. And so we're nearly finished the boats. So you can see there now, I'm just kind of connecting the water there with some water, and just kind of letting all the colour bleed along into each other, and just to kind of start the process of that water around the boats happening, and then also just touching up any lines and kind of, you know, fixing anything there. I think as well in the other one that I did, because I was using a number 2, and also because you know, I wasn't sort of on camera, I was doing things a little bit more carefully, and I was taking a bit more time with, so for example, the front of the hull there of the boat. You'll see in a little while I try and lift some colour off, and at the end I'll kind of try and show you a comparison where I took a little bit more time to paint the front of the boats and kind of paint some shadows into the point there. But this is just, you know, so you can paint it like this, or you can also, you know, take some time and add in some extra elements and details there as well. So it just depends. And then here I'm just using the Van Dyke Brown and just popping that on those masts there, and, you know, just going back and re-adding a little bit darker spots to some areas to kind of make that, you know, feel and look more like the wood feel, and, you know, have the variations in the color there. And so don't worry if your line isn't perfectly straight there either. Remember that this is in the water, so the ripples on the water and the light, you know, makes everything look sort of more hazy as well. So it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. You're sort of trying to make it a little bit more of an organic feel in that way. And then here we are just getting some cobalt blue, and we're putting the sort of middle of the boat in with that colour. And so once we've gone in and deepened the colour up as well, then I decided I wanted to lift a bit of colour off as well to give it a little bit more movement and, you know, a bit more life in the painting. So I've just, you know, you can do this with your brush, or like I did there, you can use a tissue. This is kind of the first time I have painted on this. So this is the Dina Wakley mixed media journal or something like that, and this is the first time I've kind of painted on this paper, and I really enjoy it. This is a cotton paper, and so I've, you know, kind of just been working out, like, you know, how to lift and how to do all the things that I wanted to kind of do on this paper. And actually sometimes I forget about lifting. It's such a good way to bring that the highlights back into your painting as well. So don't, you know, forget about doing that as well, and don't be scared to do it. And even if your painting's dry, you can add some water where you want to lift some color, and either use your brush or use a tissue and just pull some of that color back off and create those highlights. So here I'm just getting sort of some cobalt turquoise and the Sleeping Beauty turquoise, and I'm just kind of painting that in kind of haphazardly in like little wave patterns. So now I'm just kind of continuing the water along and using some thicker strokes and some thinner strokes. And again, if I was off camera, I'd probably be looking at this and trying to do a little bit more of a wave, sort of a, you know, like a hill, kind of something like that, more of a less of a sort of straight line and more of a, you know, a wave-like line where it goes thin at a point and then up in a thick sort of hill and then down to a thin point again. But you can see that this kind of works just sort of a haphazard, putting the water droplets in there and kind of making the water look a bit choppy. But also on this paper as well, the water is the watercolor is going to dry a little bit lighter than when you put it on there, so you've got to account for that as well. And then I am just going to keep going back in with water and with some different colors and kind of working these waves through. And I'm also going to add some of the pearl white to these colors, and I probably should have done that from the beginning to kind of make it look like the other one, but I'm just going to start now and start adding some of this pearl white to make the colours shine. So here I'm just adding some of the Sugalite into the water just under the boat to kind of create the shadows in the water there. And again, I'm applying it kind of haphazardly to account for the ripples in the water. I'm not trying to apply that, you know, all in one smooth stroke. I want it to look sort of broken up by the light on the water. And then here I start to see like I'm not happy with the front of the water here in these waves, so I'm going back in and trying to lift and change some of that. It's kind of hard when you know, like you're painting with sort of reaching around a tripod and then you're kind of looking at it from around the other way, so it's a bit tricky to kind of get that perspective right and everything. And then here I'm still going back in and deepening up the shadows, and what I want to do here is make some shadows from the poles, the wooden masts. And again, these are, you know, painted without being straight, so that the, you know, it's the shadow on the water. And then I'm just kind of touching up anywhere where I think, you know, needs a little bit more attention. And so now that I have kind of done that part, I'm going back into the boats and just seeing if I need to touch up anything, make parts of it darker to sort of create that contrast there. And then we'll start on the sky. So I'm just applying water all over it pretty liberally. And then we're going to just sort of start, I think we start with the clouds. So I use a little bit of moon glow, let's see, moonstone. It's sort of the grey sparkle, and I really like this for shadows, so I just use this for the clouds, and I'm kind of just lightly painting in here where I think the clouds should go first of all. And so then I'm just popping in the Holbein Lilac and some Daniel Smith Ultramarine Violet around there, just to kind of create a pretty sunset that's kind of a little bit, you know, overcast. So whether or not it's realistic, but I'm not sure, but it's just, I just think the colours are really pretty together in this painting. So I'm just going to go back in with some, I'm actually using a little bit of hematite and some Sugalite mixed, and then I'm just going back in over the clouds once they've kind of nearly dried, just to give a bit more definition there. And I think we're going to call this pretty much done. I could let this dry and add another layer, but I think this works for now. You can kind of see that, and I might kind of finish it off and come and show you at some point, but here you can see the top one that I did, and then this one. So you can see there was a little bit more work gone into the top one, but you can also see the shimmer colors, and I could make those colours with the pearl white, but I would need to kind of let this dry and then do a whole nother layer on top. So that's definitely something that you can do, or you can do it from the beginning. You could mix the pearl white in straight away with the watercolours, you know, the cobalt turquoise and for the water and for the sky as well. But that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.